All right, now joining us on the broadcast from Washington, D.C., we've got Mr. Heino Kling, who was the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for East Asia and also a retired U.S. Army Colonel. Mr. Kling, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Now, I want to ask you this. In your assessment, what do you think has changed from that Alaska summit to now, where Donald Trump wants to meet Vladimir Putin? And if things haven't changed on the ground, what do you think could be the outcome of this summit in Budapest?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think at the strategic level, at the global level, President Trump has momentum based on the successes that we've seen in the Middle East now, for instance, as well as some of the trade talks that have been successfully concluded on a bilateral basis. So I believe he has some wind in his sails, if you will. I think what you've also seen change recently, particularly within the last week, is some of the rhetoric coming out of Washington, D.C. with respect to the proposal that the United States may provide Ukraine with Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. I think that is something that, in fact, the Russians are worried about, coupled with the fact that the Trump administration is pursuing additional economic levers to pull in terms of putting additional economic pressure on Russia. So I don't think there's going to be a peace agreement signed in Budapest. However, I do believe that this is one more incremental step to hopefully bringing the conflict to an end.
Interesting. Now, Volodymyr Zelensky will also be meeting Donald Trump at the White House in some time from now. In your assessment, what is it that Volodymyr Zelensky would be looking to try and get out of Donald Trump? He wants the Tomahawk missiles, but speaking purely as a military man, do you think even if these Tomahawk missiles were to be given to Ukraine, most of these Tomahawk missiles tend to be, naval-based? Can Ukraine use them?
Well, there's certainly a land attack version of the Tomahawk, so that's not an issue. There is no silver bullet in terms of something that's going to give the Ukrainians a military victory, or for that matter, a silver bullet that the Russians have. If either one could have prevailed on the battlefield, they would have already, since this phase of the war started in February of 2022. I think, though, what it will signal is more political resolve, more political support of Washington for Kyiv. We have to remember, in terms of American and NATO weapons support to Ukraine, under the Biden administration, it was a very, very piecemeal approach. Every major weapon system that the Ukrainians requested, we first said no, then we said maybe, and then we provided it with strings attached. To this very day, the Germans, who have been debating providing their own Taurus cruise missiles, have still not been able to get political consensus to do that. Only the Brits have been able to provide the Storm Shadow cruise missile. So I think, again, from a military perspective, it will certainly put more pressure on the Russians, but is not going to lead to any kind of overwhelming military success. But it will, in fact, signal greater and greater American support for Kyiv and in trying to, again, bring the Russians to the negotiating table.
Interesting. We'll have to see as to how that meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump, of course, unfolds. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Heino Kling, for joining us with that perspective there.
Thank you.